Hello, beautiful people. How are you? As always, how are you surfing the waves? I actually had this really beautiful feeling that the energy frequency really shifted this weekend, and I just felt much more like uplifted and heart-centered. I had just the desire to really be in meditation and to be really inwards, and it felt very calm and very peaceful. And so I just wanted to share that because I think as we're oscillating often between this feeling of like expansion and bliss to the contraction and despair of what's going on our planet, it's really important to note the times that feel beautiful and blissful. So I just wanted to share that. It's just that that energy is here too. So, okay, so what came through today that I wanted to speak to is this one of the biggest illusions, and I think the biggest lies that we unfortunately believe is that we're not worthy, that we're somehow not worthy, that we're not good enough, that we need to be better, that we need to prove ourselves, that yeah, that we're feeble, weak, and incapable and powerless. And that is such a massive illusion and such a huge lie. And it unfortunately really affects and taints the our lives. So what I want to talk about today is just really melting that illusion away. Like, just stop believing in it. Stop believing in it because it's an illusion and it's a lie and it's not serving us. And part of this period of time that is, you could call it the great reveal, awakening, ascending, really it's just the remembrance. It's the remembrance of who we truly are, which is incredibly powerful, but not the kind of power that we associate with our current world, which is power that includes fear and control and greed and manipulation. It's like, no, 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 true inner power. So I want to talk about kind of removing the obstacle of unworthiness and how to do so, and then really stepping into the truth of who we are. So that will be the point where we'll begin from. So let's dive in. This is Corinne Bloom, and you're listening to Raw Conversations. So, beginning with the lie, beginning with the illusion. It doesn't necessarily always feel like an illusion or a lie because it can feel very real because our identity, for many of us, I think all humans in some shape or form to some varying degrees have had to deal with this. Yeah, like deal with this, I don't feel worthy or I don't feel good enough. And it can come out in different ways for us all. But I don't think there's a human on this planet that hasn't come against that at some point in their lives. But it can feel very real because we've identified with it depending on what came out of our childhood, the way that we were spoken to, but also the story that we told ourselves in our childhood experience, right? So sometimes you could actually have like a really amazing childhood, and there still is something that came in that somehow we took something personal and we made it about ourselves, and we made it about our lack of worth, or lack of being lovable or significant. And so then that story then forms this identity, right? But we also live in a culture, in a society that likes to really pump that into us of like, you're not good enough. So do this more, achieve more, buy more, do, all of this stuff that brings us into this external space rather than the inner peace of knowing that who you are is good enough. Like inherently, innately is good enough. So what comes up is, this is going to be a funny analogy, but I think it's really useful. I've been watching with my daughter the Kung Fu Panda films. And at one point, the panda, who's like, prophecy says he's like the chosen dragon warrior, right? That's going to defeat all evil. And, he's this big, pudgy panda that's kind of a little bit uncoordinated and is not like a kung fu fighter. And he's trying really, really hard. And the point is to try to get himself to a place where he then can receive this scroll that has been highly protected, and it's meant to have the answer that gives you the most power, like the most power on the planet, obviously used for good, right? But there's going to be some scripture in there that's going to reveal the big secret of like what is going to make you the most powerful being. And he finally gets it and he opens it up and there's nothing. It's empty. And he's like, what? Like, why is it empty? How is it empty? And even like the master is like, what? How is it empty? Like, what is the answer? And so he kind of lets go of it. But then through his journey, he somehow comes back to it. And when he opens it up again, because he has this aha moment because of what someone had said to him, because someone just said, be you. And when he looked at the scroll again and it was empty, he recognized that what he saw was a reflection of himself. And in the reflection of himself, he recognized this just beautiful truth of be you. When you are you, you are the most powerful that you can be. The most potent thing you can do is to be authentically you. And then not to just be you, but to believe in you. And once he did that and he saw himself and he recognized all I have to do is be me and believe in myself, that's when like, boom, his powers came on, right? And the evil guy, he was trying to get the scroll. And when he got the scroll, he looks at it and he's like, what? There's nothing here. Because he couldn't see himself and he couldn't accept himself and he didn't believe in himself, right? He was coming from that place of I'm not good enough and I need to prove and I need to be the strongest and I need to be the mightiest and I need to control everyone and everything. And that's all an illusion, right? That's based off of I'm not good enough and I'm not worthy as I am, whereas this clumsy panda that's not good at kung fu at all, his belief in himself and him seeing himself was what ignited his superpowers. So it's a beautiful analogy. It's a beautiful metaphor for our own process. So this lie, I'm going to call it that because it's not based on any kind of truth whatsoever, that we're not worthy and that we're not good enough. We simply have to stop believing it. That's it. Like we simply have to stop believing it. Now, the challenge of it is because we've been so habituated to believe it. And not only have we been habituated, but it's been integrated into our identity. And so, what are some of the ways in which we can start to melt away the story and the illusion and the lie of I'm not worthy? Now, I just want to point something out first. It can feel very real because going back to that childhood moment and however you identified whatever you believed, the story that you told yourself, you came into the I am of that. I am unworthy. I am not good enough. And then, of course, society, whether it's obvious or subliminal, is constantly regurgitating that as well. So firstly, it's just to have compassion for that part that really believes it to be so true. Like it really believes, no, but you're not worthy and you're not good enough because look at your life. It will find all the reasons. And I don't know who it was that said this. Basically, you will always find evidence for what you're looking for. If you want to find evidence for the ways in which you're not good enough and you're not worthy, you will find it because your mind will look for it. It's a processing system. It will find the data for it. But if you believe that you are worthy and good enough, you will also find the confirmation of that as well. But it all comes down to our lens and our perspective, which are very much influenced by our beliefs. But I was thinking about like, okay, what is the way to kind of melt away and almost rub out that illusion of not being worthy? So it's easy to say, okay, I'm not going to believe in it anymore, right? But our habit will mean that we continue to show up in our behavior in a way that will continue to reinforce that belief and that perspective. So a word that came up this morning, I go and online, there's a small group led by a wonderful man called Christopher Sell, and he leads these beautiful meditations. And one of the words that came out of the conversation afterwards was kindness, kind, like being really kind to ourselves. And he used he said he likes the word kind because part of that word is kin. And so what do we think of? Like kin is, next of kin. Who is the closest person to us? And actually we are the closest person to us, right? Who that is familial, that is family, that is close to us. Kin is part of the word kind. And then what came up for me after he said that was like, oh, and then the word Kinder. Kinder in German is child. And to be a child is to be in that state of kindness and love and curiosity and openness. And it's so authentic and it's so genuine and it's so connected to source. And so there's all of these beautiful qualities that come out of the word kind. Kind, kin, kinder. And then he was saying kindergarten, and it's like this beautiful, there's this beautiful image and feeling that arises out of that. So a way to melt away something. We don't learn by heavy, strict discipline that says, don't do this. Like one of the things that I want to point out is some people will say, well, if I'm just loving and accepting of all parts of myself or all people, then I don't feel okay with that because it's almost like we're condoning bad behavior, we're condoning evil on the planet, which surely does exist. But what we need to kind of expand into and differentiate from that vast perspective is the remembrance of who you are as a soul. The essence of who you are is always worthy. It's always worthy. Can our behavior be evolved? Absolutely. Absolutely, it can be evolved. But the canvas of who you are can never be touched in so far as what I mean by that is your worth can never be taken away from the foundation of who you are as a soul. And that goes for even the most evil person on this planet, right? That essence cannot be destroyed. It cannot be tarnished in that way. Our behavior, yes, can be evolved. Now, but here's the thing, no being ever learns through a kind of strict discipline that says, don't do this, like you're bad. Like basically what's happening is that we're being shamed into changing our behavior. We're being shamed, and through fear, we're maybe learning to do things differently, but it's not an embodied, wholesome, organic, authentic expression. It's this learnt outside in. I'm afraid that I'm going to be punished or exiled or criticized or judged if I do that. So I need to learn to do this. But it's this superficial outside in, like a mask gets put on, a layer gets put on, right? Another layer of density gets put on. It's like, no, it's not okay to be who you are. So you need to be this, right? And whenever we do something, any action or behavior from a place of fear, it's not genuine and authentic. So the way that we learn, let's say a child does something that, like, their behavior and their action in that moment was not great, right? Like it could use some evolving. One tactic is to go in through shame and punishment and to say, no, that was bad. You're a bad boy. You're a bad girl. Don't ever do that again. Go to your room. You don't get to do this. And it's like, what will happen is that they will go into contraction through fear and through judgment and through shame. And on top of that, they'll feel alone and isolated. And that's where the story begins of, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not loved. I'm not accepted. And so then all of the coping mechanisms come out. Whereas a real learning experience in that moment is for a parent to come in and to put their arm around them and go, okay, I love you. I'm here for you. I'm not going to abandon you. I'm not going to reject you. I'm not going to judge you, but let's look at your behavior. What can we learn from this? How did your actions affect somebody else? How does that make you feel? How do you think they felt? There's always a learning experience. And this is the school of life. And we're constantly learning through some of the wisest teachers are our relationships. It's our interpersonal dynamics that teach us the most. They are such a high spiritual path because they challenge us like big time, right? So, we could take something and either go into punishment and into shame And that kind of chips away and erodes our sense of self-worth and makes us feel unworthy and not good enough, and like something is wrong with us and something needs to be fixed and we should be so ashamed to be who we are. Or we can come from that, perspective of, you are worthy and lovable and significant and you matter and you belong no matter what. But let's look at this. Let's look at this together, and what can we learn so that we can do it differently the next time? And this is the fundamental difference between seeing through the eyes and the perspective of lack of self-worth and seeing through the eyes of worth. Is when, as adults, we're coming through unworthiness, we will miss the point entirely of what happened, and we'll go into the story of, see how you're not good enough and you should feel ashamed of this and you should feel guilty and bad and this is why things aren't working in your life, and we go into the whole story of it, right? And it makes us feel like shit. Whereas coming from worth, we go, okay, I'm here for you. I'm listening. I love you. I accept you as you are. It's okay. But let's take self-responsibility for this. Let's feel it. Let's feel what the repercussions were, the cause and effect, but without any judgment, without reprimanding, without shaming. What can you learn from this? What would you do differently? If you were coming from a place of love, how would you have showed up in a different way? And that's evolution, because then the next time you think about it before and you stop and you make a different choice and you act differently. And then this ties back into, like, how can we be more kind? How can we be more kind to ourselves, to others, to the planet, to everything? Right? But we need that pause point sometimes to stop our kind of triggered human instinctual behavior and come into a place of consciousness and self-awareness. But we cannot do that if we're afraid of ourselves, because we're afraid of the voice that told us, nope, go to your room, you're grounded, you're punished, right? We don't learn through fear. We're controlled through fear, but we don't learn and grow and evolve through fear. So that's why, coming back around to this point of how can we be more kind, it's like in that example and in that analogy, the parent is trying to create a learning opportunity, but through kindness, right? We learn very differently. Think about all the times when you were younger that, like, God, you didn't learn through that experience. You just felt so shamed and judged and scared and alone and isolated. And was that really a learning experience, or was it like a trauma? I actually remember I had an experience when I was about, maybe I was 16, because I could drive, and I was a ballet student. And so I was very disciplined. I was very dedicated. I was definitely being groomed for a certain path. And my teachers, one in particular, had a lot of expectation, like really a lot of expectation of myself, of me. And I was very dedicated, and I was very disciplined, and I was good, right? I was quote unquote good. And then one time I was a 16-year-old. I went to a party. I don't even remember it that much, where I was going to go to. I know, I think I went to a party, but I ended up actually leaving at some point. But two of my girlfriends stayed, and they ended up, like, doing what 16-year-olds do. And they ended up staying in their car or sleeping in their car, and a police had found them. And so obviously their parents, their guardians, were kind of told. And that relayed back to the teacher, and there was this whole drama, of how irresponsible and how terrible we were. And the end of it, I wasn't even there, but I came in and spoke to my teacher, because I was just like, right, I'm going to be in my integrity. I'm going to be in my authenticity. I'm going to speak my truth. I'm going to say what happened. I have nothing to hide. And I remember she looked at me with just the most terrible, shaming eyes, like that, like whoop, penetrated me. And it felt awful. And it felt particularly awful because, firstly, I wasn't even part of the thing that happened that got the girls in trouble. I was coming in of my own accord and just taking self-responsibility. And it was so awful to have, like, a teacher that believed in me so much that all of a sudden was so disappointed, like so disappointed. And it's like, for bloody sake, I was a 16-year-old girl that just went to a party, and I didn't even do the drugs. I didn't even do all of that stuff. But the look of disappointment, I never learned anything from that experience. I just felt the sting of being shamed. Like, it was terrible. But what I also remember is that when my mom came to pick me up, or like she had been a part of the meeting, and then after, she sat with me and she was kind. She was kind. She was understanding. She didn't berate me. She didn't shame me. I don't even think she punished or, whatever, whatever you do, like I don't remember that, at least. And I remember that. I was like, oh, my nervous system gets to just relax. It's okay. There isn't something like fundamentally wrong with me. But I'll tell you, from that point forward, I never trusted my teacher again. Never trusted her again. So we don't learn through being shamed. That doesn't teach us anything. We learn through kindness. And it's a choice to be kind. And right now, given the state of the world that we're in, it's a discipline and a skill and a practice to be kind, because it's very easy to go into, we've kind of come into such a devolved version of ourselves that has become so divisional and therefore judgmental that it takes a lot more effort to choose kindness. But then once you choose kindness, it gives you so much energy and it feels so much better that it becomes so much easier. It's so much easier than being judgmental and opinionative and righteous and all of these things. So I've kind of gone off on a story and a tangent, and I want to bring it back to I'm being reminded of a word that I need to speak about, and that is authenticity. Authenticity next to love, with love, is one of the most potent frequencies. And I've spoken about this in the past. It's not new information. But it's so potent because for me, authenticity is just the truth of who you are. And it's in full acceptance of all of who you are. Authenticity can stand and be real and raw and vulnerable and naked and say, this is who I am. It's the I am that I am. It's the isness. There's no lies. There's no illusion. There's nothing fake or false about it. But authenticity is so incredibly powerful, not the power that we know in this realm that is dominated and catalyzed through greed and control. It's the power of being in the entirety of who you are, with nothing to hide, with integrity. And from that place, there's only love. And from that place, there is only kindness. So authenticity is a really important piece as well, to remember that when you are authentically you come into that place of who I am, whatever I'm experiencing, feeling, or thinking is okay. Because from a higher soul level, none of this matters. Like, it doesn't matter from the perspective of you're going to cross to the other side and you're still going to be loved. So it's not like, oh my God, if I do this, I'm going to go to hell forever, No, you can review and you can learn from it and you can evolve. But remember, go back to that loving parent that says, I love you no matter what. No matter what you do, I will love you and I will accept you. Yes, can we work on the behavior? Sure. Can we learn from this? Sure. Can we evolve through that learning? Sure. Great. Yay. But I will always love and accept you as you are. And that's what Source feels with us. And that's what we need to remember to do for ourselves. So to remove this illusion and this lie of lack of self-worth, of unworthiness, to stop believing that lie, you have to be kind to yourself and believe in yourself and open up that scroll and see the reflection of who you are and go, the most powerful thing that I can do is to be who I am, and to be kind to that I am, and to be loving towards that I am. Because in this time of remembrance, that's what we're coming to. There's nothing out here that we need to seek for. Everything is in here. I think that was what was so beautiful about this weekend. It was just like going into this beautiful internal heart space. And in that, there was so much like fulfillment and peace and calm and acceptance and surrender and openness and excitement. And it was like, oh yeah, this is the fifth dimensional field of heart, of love, of kindness, of being. We don't need to prove anymore. We don't need to do anymore. We don't need to seek anymore. Just come back home to heart But the only obstacles and barriers that are going to be in the way are your own judgment and criticism of yourself. And that's going to induce fear. And fear is the only thing that can, it can't imprison the soul, but it can give the illusion that the soul is imprisoned, that the soul is untouchable. It's infinite and immortal and untouchable. So the invitation today is, how kind can you be with yourself, towards yourself? Stop believing the lie that you're unworthy. You are worthy and good enough as you are. It's your birthright, not just of your human self, but of your soul self. But to embody that and to come into the truth of who you are and the acceptance of who you are and the authenticity of who you are and really be in your true power and potential and get like your kung fu freaking powers going. Be kind to yourself. Be loving to yourself. So that's the simple invitation for this week, is just recognize all the moments where you can be more kind, more loving and accepting. And if you do something where you're like, oh, I could work on that behavior, okay, you sit with yourself like the loving, kind, patient, compassionate parent that you would like to embody. And you go, okay, what can we learn from this? How can we do it differently next time from a place of more love, more heart, more kindness? All right, I'll leave it at that. As always, take it or leave it as feels right for you, and loving you from afar. Bye. You've been listening to Raw Conversations with Corinne Bloom. Thanks so much for showing up, listening in, and being a part of the conversation with me.